If you're a fan of first-person perspective games, especially competitive shooters, and you hail from the PC world of gamers where a mouse and keyboard are the controller of choice, you might not be right at home with using a twin-stick controller conveyance for this genre of gaming. You probably heard about Gyro controls on the Steam Deck, helping to close the gap between controller and mouse play. Maybe you've had a bad experience with it like I did, or you just have no idea where to start setting it up and using it. Today, we're going to take a look at my favorite team-based shooter, Overwatch 2, and show you how to set up gyro-assisted aiming and see how well it performs. Stick around. I've been a twin-stick FPS gamer since the 1990s. Call of Duty on Xbox 360 was a huge pastime for me and my friends. When I shifted from console back to PC, the venerable Windows had finally started supporting controllers more, making it very easy to stay with the twin-stick arrangement and not migrate to mouse and keyboard. Since that decade, I have continued to be a controller-only player, and while a controller can never be as precise as a mouse for aiming, I must say I've gotten pretty good at it. For me, switching from the PC to the deck felt 100% natural, but I realized that those that have only ever used a mouse and keyboard for shooters, there's a long road ahead of you to adapt. Outside of attaching a mouse and keyboard to your deck, and at that point you might as well have just bought a gaming laptop, the next most precise method of aiming is the gyroscope, a device in the deck that can read tiny movements of the device and translate it into joystick movement or mouse motion. If you've played the deck's freebie tech demo Aperture Desk Job and love the gyro-based shooting section, you're going to love what we're doing today, which is to set up gyro-assisted aiming with the team shooter Overwatch 2. One thing before we get started. While some people choose to completely replace the analog stick with the gyro-based action, that isn't what I'm talking about or what we're going to be doing today. What we'll be doing is augmenting the right analog stick and using gyro as a precision tool, not as a replacement. This will make more sense as we go on. Before we get into the setup and tweaking, let's do a little before and after look at play with and without gyro-assisted aiming. In this clip, I'm playing Overwatch 2 without any gyro features. This means all my looking and aiming, even down sights, will be done with the right controller. With team shooters like Overwatch here, there's a good balance of player choices where regardless of what role you play, there are characters that can be played effectively with a controller. More bullets, infinite bullets, more spray and pray type action, where aiming is secondary like Roadhog or Diva. Some characters have gadgets to compensate for accuracy, like Torbjorn's turret or Moira's damage and healing orbs. Conversely, there are characters that are essentially forbidden for non-mouse and keyboard players, those that need pinpoint accuracy, like Sniper Widowmaker or Bob-wielding Ashe. Support characters like Ana need insane reflexes as well as a deadly mouse pointer. Now we'll enable gyro-assisted aiming and we'll play the unranked Mystery Heroes mode, where you're randomly assigned a character every time you spawn. Not only do you not get to choose a class, but the teams can be horribly imbalanced. This is the Wild Wild West where the playing field is leveled and only your skills with controls can help you adapt to a hero you never play. As a controller player, the forbidden heroes are forced upon me, and if all I had was a right stick, there is no way I could play these characters at all. But as you can see, while I might not be up on their skills or be privy to their cooldowns or damage patterns, I'm not completely helpless playing Widow, or Hanzo, or Genji. I am able to be far more accurate with Ana and even be more efficient with my regular heroes, like Moira, where I can more effectively track an enemy while I'm sucking his life out of him. Now, I'm not 100% at home with gyro assistance yet, as you can plainly see by this video. I've been at it a couple of weeks on and off, and while I'm getting better, there are times when I'm fighting the hero, their abilities, and the control change. Remember, we're using gyro here to augment the right stick, not remove it completely. For imprecise, coarse looking and positioning, I'm still using the stick. Since my thumb is on it, the gyro is actually active, But since I have the gyro behavior set as joystick instead of as mouse, they don't tend to fight each other. Literally, when you stop the stick motion, the gyro takes over. It is almost a match made in heaven, especially if you're a lifelong controller player. All right, enough already. Let's set it up. Here's my Overwatch 2 Steam controller settings. I'm using the Steam Deck's rear paddles to replace the poor bumpers and the rare needs for the L3 and R3 analog stick clicks. Always been a terrible choice, thank God for rear paddles. Next, we'll take gyro behavior and change it to as joystick. Since I'm an invert Y controller user, I'll click the invert gyro Y-axis. If you believe you should push forward to look up and back to look down, better leave this unchecked. We'll save the debate why this is better for another day. Now we'll click the gear and go into the more advanced settings. There's a lot going on in here, right? The good news is that you really only have to change one thing, the enhanced small movement precision slider. This is basically saying what percentage of your movements should you translate to aiming. Normally I'd say this setting is based on preference, but in this case it kind of isn't. If you want all movements to be considered, move this to 100. If you don't, your fine precision movements to dial in an enemy may be dropped, and that will frustrate you. However, if you find this precision is terribly off-putting, go ahead and try something like 90 or 95. How you hold and play the deck will also have some bearing on how precise this level can be set to. Now, there are dozens of other settings in here for you to play with. Honestly, I haven't had the need to touch them yet. Perhaps once I'm more skilled at gyro-assisted aiming, I may want some of these settings tweaked, but for now, that one setting pretty much does the trick. That's all there is to it. One last thing before we go though, there are several ways to hold and play your deck. Some are easier to adapt to gyro than others. Until you really get dialed in, I highly recommend you prop your deck up on something stable to keep it mostly unmoving while you play. I like to put a couch pillow on my chest and rest it there, moving the deck only when I need to dial in my aim. You can also rest it on a desk or table to avoid any unnecessary movement. If these aren't possible, you may have to trade super fine precision for stability, since holding the deck without any brace will be highly susceptible to minor movements, and that may inadvertently change the view, and that will certainly frustrate you. If you get nothing else out of this video, remember that any drastic change in control methodology takes time and practice. Moving from a mouse and a keyboard to either twin stick controller or gyro assisted aiming isn't going to feel natural, and you're going to take a beating until it does. Find a nice Call of Duty game that features multiplayer bots. Set yours and the enemy teams to recruit level and play until you can destroy the other team. Move up the difficulty until you get to veteran, and once you're wiping the floor with the veteran bots, you're good to go for humans. Well, that's going to wrap it up, folks. If you found this helpful, please like, sub, hit the bell. All that nonsense is a pain, but it helps us grow the channel and make useful videos like this one. I'm Shane Armonroe. Thanks so much for watching, and take care.